Earth is divided into hemispheres, or halves. Just like an orange can be cut in half, either through the center from side to side, or from the top to the bottom. Earth can also be divided two different ways. Our planet is divided in half into the northern and southern hemispheres by an imaginary line on its surface called the equator. The equator is the same distance from the North Pole as it is from the South Pole. The United States, where we live, is located in the northern hemisphere. Earth can also be divided into two halves called the eastern and western hemispheres. These hemispheres are divided by the prime meridian. An imaginary line used to split Earth into eastern and western hemispheres. When the northern hemisphere is tilted toward the sun during Earth's revolution around the sun, it receives more intense light from the sun at a more direct angle. During this time, it is summer in the northern hemisphere. Around June 21st each year, the sun reaches its highest point overhead in the northern hemisphere. This is called the summer solstice and is referred to as the longest day of the year. That means that there is daylight for a longer period of time on that day than on any other day of the year. People in the southern hemisphere are experiencing winter, while people in the northern hemisphere are experiencing summer. On June 21st in the southern hemisphere, that part of the Earth is tilted away from the sun, with the sun at the low angle in the sky. The sunlight is not as strong or as intense, and there is less of it, so that part of the Earth receives less light and less energy than the northern hemisphere. June 21st is the winter solstice, or shortest day of the year, in the southern hemisphere. It is the opposite of the northern hemisphere. As Earth revolves around the sun, the seasons begin to change depending on which hemisphere is tilted most directly toward the sun. This depends on where Earth is on its revolution or orbit around the sun. One revolution takes 1 year, and each hemisphere is tilted directly in the sun for part of the year. 6 months after the longest day in the northern hemisphere, the shortest day occurs. The winter solstice in the northern hemisphere is on December 21st. This, of course, is the longest day of the year, or summer solstice, in the southern hemisphere. They are opposites. When Earth is halfway between the two solstices, both hemispheres receive the same amount of sunlight. This means that the hours of daylight and of darkness are the same in each hemisphere. The days that are equal are called equinoxes. The spring equinox occurs at the beginning of spring on March 21st. The autumn equinox occurs That's what we said. Autumn equinox occurs at the beginning of autumn on September 21st. The cycle of one complete orbit or revolution of Earth around the sun marks or measures 1 year. Living things respond to the changes in sunlight and warmth throughout the 4 seasons of the year. seasons. With increased sunlight and warmth during spring and summer, many living things tend to grow well. Animals are born and plants grow. With decreased sunlight during autumn and winter, some plants are ready to be harvested. Whereas other plants die. Some become dormant or become inactive and stop growing and make new leaves for the winter and wait for the sunlight to return. Some animals, to avoid the winter chill, hibernate or migrate. When animals migrate, they move to warmer environments. Not every part of Earth experiences seasons, though. Different areas of Earth have different types of weather. This is partly because of the shape and tilt of our planet. This means that different parts of Earth receive different amounts of sunlight and warmth. The area around the equator receives the greatest amount of direct intense sunlight, so some of the warmest parts of Earth are located in that part of the planet. The North and South poles are at opposite ends of our planet, and they receive the least direct sunlight. In fact, although they are so far apart, they have the same kind of weather as each other. It is always cold in the North and South poles. The next lesson, you will learn more about the cycle involving the 4 seasons and how each season brings with it an ever-changing landscape. Which season is your favorite?